Okay, hi guys. I've just spent the last few weeks figuring out how Unreal 4 works, and it's been a wild, disorienting, confusing ride. So after my last video, I had an idea in mind on how I was going to approach rebuilding this prototype in Unreal. I was going to create the terrain for it and, put vegetation and stuff on it. And I was going to try and port all the houses I made in CryEngine into Blender and then into Unreal and sort of clean them up along the way, lowering the poly count and getting better textures for all of them. Then finally I was going to work on actual coding, making quests and AI and interactable items, all that good stuff. I wanted to leave that until last because I thought it would be the most time-consuming task. But things haven't gone exactly as planned, or even slightly as planned. The problem is I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I'm pretty sure this video is going to be like 50% me fumbling around in Unreal, not understanding how this shit works. So at this point I've rendered the map in World Machine, and the next thing I try to do is get the height map into a level with a ground texture and some vegetation. I get as far as importing the height map, which I actually do twice because I wanted the lighting and the skybox, but I couldn't remember how to do that, so I just repeated what I did here in the default level. And the height map actually came out pretty good. If I did this in CryEngine, I would have had so many issues I would have had to compensate for. Things like mountains being too high and the whole terrain being jagged and pixelated. Even though I have no idea what I'm doing, this process is still so much simpler than it was in CryEngine. Then I tried to sort out the vegetation, and it was at this point I realized I needed to actually know what I was doing. Yeah, I know there's a vegetation painter here, but using that would be a terrible idea. Okay, let's say you want some grass on your terrain. How the fuck are you meant to do that? You're not a gardener. You didn't sign up for this shit. You wanted to make games, not be a fucking landscaper. Well, here's what most people do. The simplest solution is to add grass to the vegetation painter and paint the grass by hand, everywhere you want it. If you do this, you're fucking insane. It's like dividing by zero. Do it. See if the universe is still here afterwards. No, this isn't that time in 10th grade maths when the teacher is throwing some crazy formulas and shit at you and they try and boost your confidence by saying the simplest answer is usually the right one. No, I need procedural vegetation. I need a way to place things like grass wherever there is a grass texture. I don't know how to do that yet, so I'm just going to ignore that problem and hope it goes away. Like an adult. Moving on, I attempted to make an interactable entity, specifically an NPC. I wanted to walk up to it, press F, and have that bring up a dialogue interface, like this one. But, because I have an actual UI editor in Unreal, I should be able to make it look more like this.
Yes, my friend.
Fuck you!
Kiss my ass, bitch!
I ran into some speed bumps with making something that's actually interactable. I couldn't figure out how to add a collision sphere to a damn blueprint. I looked up tutorials and even the documentation. Now remember, I've worked exclusively with CryEngine for the past 4 years. If you've used CryEngine's official documentation, you'll know it's fucking awful, outdated rubbish, and the website it exists in is confusing as all hell. What the fuck is this? There's 2 search bars. Why? Well, maybe if I such natch flow graph, I can get what I want. Okay, so what happens if I search for flow graph then? Hang on. These results are completely different to the other results. Well, how the fuck am I meant to know which search bar to use, Crytek? Anyway, I eventually got an interaction thing going on by myself, but it wasn't good enough, so I eventually turned to YouTube tutorials to help me make the shit I need. So here's an interactable entity. It lights up and shit when you look at it. It's great. I can turn that into an NPC or a potion or something. Somehow. I don't know, I haven't gone that far in the tutorials yet. All it does is light up right now. Believe it or not, that entertained me for fucking hours. I should just stop here and sell this game, I'd be fucking rich. The last thing I made was a HUD. Now you probably haven't seen it in any of my videos, but I had a Skyrim-like HUD in my RPG prototype in CryEngine. It looked something like this. and oh my god, it is so much easier to make a HUD in Unreal. It has its own UI editor with pretty much everything you could need in it. Having said that, I still didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't figure out how to rotate something in this editor. So I went into Photoshop and rotated all of these little border pieces and saved them individually, only to realize almost immediately after that there was a rotation thing in the properties bar all along. So I went from this in CryEngine, which I had to do in Adobe Flash CS5 because of CryEngine's fuckery, to this, which I'd done in about an hour or so in Unreal's in-house UI editor. It has pretty much all the functionality of the CryEngine version, as well as an experience bar and a basic skill tree, which I'll make prettier later on. Right now it's just for testing purposes. So that's what I've been doing for the past month. Honestly, it isn't a lot to show in a video. This has basically been a glorified time-lapse, which I don't have a problem with. If you ever want people to think you know what you're doing, just turn it into a time-lapse. Everything looks cool in a time-lapse. By the way, I'm going to aim for one video a month. Please don't get the pitchforks out if I don't meet that schedule though. I do have a job and game design only gets done on my off days. And I do need to record enough footage to fill a video, which for this video took about 3 weeks. So the abrupt ending thing is still funny, right?